Okay, this one is suffice it to say, and you will hear this a lot. It's not an idiom really. It's an expression. It's used a lot, and it has two meanings. And I'm going to talk about both of them. Suffice it to say. Okay, let me get this up here. This is a really good explanation. Suffice it to say, I guess I always say suffice it to say. They're saying that some people say suffice to say. No, I never do that. It's used at the beginning of a statement to indicate that what you are saying is obvious. Is obvious. Okay, that's one meaning. So let's talk about that. So there was a. Let me get my face back up here. There was a situation where there was a guy on a plane, and he was kind of he was either on drugs or he was drunk, and he was showing off for his buddies. He was acting stupid, right? He was talking across the plane, and he was making a lot of noise. And then Mike Tyson happened to be on that plane. And this guy started acting stupid and like irritating Mike Tyson, right? And he just kept doing it. And suffice it to say, means it's obvious, Mike Tyson beat the hell out of him. He he tried to control himself for a long time, but they got into a fight, and then suffice it to say, Mike Tyson won. Means obviously. Means obviously. So you could say that with, let's say, I don't know, something you feel is obvious. That you feel is obvious, like, I don't know. The U.S. men's basketball team, NBA team, played high school team, and suffice it to say, the NBA team won, right? It means obviously, right? We don't have to talk about it a lot. We know that, right? It's obvious, okay? Let me see if I got any other stuff here about the one that means obvious. Oh, okay, let's take a look at this Tyson thing. I don't know if I'll get a copyright strike here. This guy's acting stupid.
Hey, Tyson trying to give us some shrooms. You don't know how to act. Tyson looking out, man. This shit crazy. This is George talking to Mike Tyson, bro. This shit crazy, bro. Mike Tyson.
Okay, so we predicted that's going to happen. You don't do that to Mike Tyson, all right? So this one is she's talking about something that she feels is obvious. Watts is an area in LA that is famous for being rough, right? We all know that. So she thinks that most people know that.
Family was from Watts. Her and my dad were in Watts, LA. Is anybody familiar with Watts? Some of us. Well, suffice it to say that in the 1970s, Watts was a really rough place. It was a rough time.
Okay, this almost has both meanings because she's saying it to be brief, but she's also saying it because she feels it's obvious. Okay, so yeah, so suffice it to say is something we say in the beginning of something to say it's no surprise that it's going to be no surprise to you to know that the adult. So there's a game called Scrabble, which is like a word game. Suffice it to say, the the adult beat the 5-year-old child at Scrabble. Okay? Or let's say there's some child, they're a video game champ, right? And suffice it to say, the world champ beat the uh, new player at a certain video game. Suffice it to say, okay. And then there's also, it just means obvious. And then there's also this thing that we say, suffice it to say, and I'm just not going to talk about it a lot because I want to keep it brief. But let's say if I'm going for like a job interview, I arrive on time, say, well, I'm glad I made it because suffice it to say, there was a lot of traffic, you know. And I'm not going to go into details, but suffice it to say, there was a lot of traffic. Or suffice it to say, the trains were crowded. Means, or let's say, for example, your father, you're taking care of the kids, and that day, and you're known to be the easygoing parent, right? And mom comes home, and you tell her about the day, and you say, well, so the kids got into all kinds of fights and all kinds of jumping off the top of the sofa, and they had a lot of fun, but there was a lot of activity that day, a lot of crying, a lot of good things that happened, and so the wife comes home, and so wife says something like, so how was the day? And you say, well, a lot of things happened today, but I won't tell you everything, but suffice it to say it was a very eventful day, you know. Suffice it to say it was a very eventful day means I'm going to just keep it brief, right? I'm not going to tell you every detail. I think I have one here that's about keeping it brief. Okay, this is a perfect example.
Well, before I tell you, very complicated system, by the way. I won't go through the entire process here, but suffice it to say, it's a very complicated system that...
Okay, so it's a very complicated system. I won't go into all of the details, but suffice it to say, it's a very complicated system. Okay, so means to keep it brief. So quite commonly used. Okay, so I will talk to you on the next video.